In this episode of Dentside Depot, I'm going to give you 10 simple reasons of why an internal combustion engine vehicle is better than a battery-powered vehicle, so stay tuned and enjoy the show. For the consumer, probably the most disturbing part of EVs is the cost to replace the battery, something that will occur for every single EV at some point. Have you ever wondered what it would cost to replace the battery in an EV? Well, here's a news flash. It isn't cheap. Alabama Ford presented the numbers for battery replacement to a popular YouTube channel, which the link for that video can be found in the description. But here is the summary of those costs. For a single cell replacement, the cost can be as little as $4,400. While that is micro small to what I'm about to tell you, that is still a significant cost. Cost of just the entire battery is $35,000. And when you add in labor and everything else, the cost rises to over $45,000 for the long-range Ford F-150 battery. At that point, you are better off just walking away from the vehicle rather than fixing it. To be clear, this is not a maybe situation. This is an absolute. Battery degradation occurs from the moment manufacturing is completed, and this will occur over a period of about 10 years for every EV. Conveniently, Ford's warranty for these batteries expires after 8 years or 100,000 miles. So guess who will pay for that repair? For the exact same truck in gas form, a 5.0 Coyote gas engine costs around $13,000 with labor to replace at the dealer. But the gas engine will last indefinitely over time when sitting, where a battery will not. It still degrades regardless of it's being used or not. So now those low mileage trucks Grandpa puts up for sale are no longer desirable. They are just expensive headaches you don't want any part of. Imagine speaking to a salesman when buying one of these trucks and he tells you, hey, at some point you will need to spend over 45 grand to replace the battery. How does that not sound completely insane to anyone? All of my classic trucks still have the original engine in them after 45 years. This will not be the case with EVs. For perspective, right now a customer can replace a gas engine in a brand new F-150 3 times at the dealer and still have spending money left over when compared to replacing a battery. It is estimated that the aviation sector, especially private planes, contribute to 2.8% of total global CO2 emissions that contribute most to climate change. Within this 2.8%, over 50% of those emissions are produced by the elite travelers who travel in private jets. Comparatively, it takes hundreds of thousands of cars to equate the emissions produced by one single private jet. This truly exemplifies rules for thee, but not for me. I hope those climate conferences are worth it. Maybe even worse is the cruise line industry. One report concluded that 63 Carnival cruise ships produced more sulfur oxide emissions in 2022 than all of the 291 million plus cars in Europe combined. The average EV weighs 20 to 40% more than a gasoline counterpart car or truck. For example, the new Hummer EV weighs 9,000 pounds. This truck right here weighs 5,500 pounds, and a modern gas truck usually weighs about the same. That is nearly twice the weight, which does in fact have drastic outcomes that negatively impact the environment concerning brake and tire wear. That is more manufacturing and waste to replace the tires and increased toxins released into the air that clearly offsets any small gains EVs may present. Conveniently, California does not include this fact into their facts and figures when calculating the pollution of EVs versus gas cars over the short term and long term. I wonder why. Well, at least that won't cause the rainforest to be cut down more to supply rubber for these EVs. Oh, wait a second. Next, consider how terribly inconvenient these EVs are, especially given the long distances that you would find within the US between travel. Here's the reality. When taking a long trip, you essentially need to plan where you're going to charge up. Even with careful planning, upon arrival, the charger may already be in use, may be out of service, and will absolutely take longer to charge compared to filling a vehicle with gasoline. This has led to major frustrations that even the CEO of Ford has pointed out when discussing the use of the new electric F-150. Farley was quoted as saying, "Charging has been pretty challenging, and it was a really good reality check of the challenges of what our customers go through and the importance of fast charging and what we're going to have to do to improve the charging experience." Farley ended up saying that he had to wait up to 40 minutes for his truck's battery to charge for only 40% at certain charging stations, which is absolutely ridiculous. This leads to what is commonly referred to as range anxiety. The reality is that in the United States, people travel longer distances when compared to smaller countries in Europe where travel is typically a shorter distance. Imagine this scenario. You take your EV on vacation to a local hotspot during a peak season such as Labor Day, and upon arrival, everyone else needs to do exactly what you need to do, charge your EV. It is already packed at this hotspot and there are no chargers available and the lines are very long and some of the machines may be broken for charging. Here's an aspect that most people don't even consider when buying an EV, and it actually affects everyone negatively. EVs are more expensive to insure than regular gasoline counterpart cars in most instances. Insurance can be 20% or higher depending on the type of EV that you are buying. They are more expensive to insure because they cost more to buy, and when damaged are impossibly expensive to fix. A minor accident and repair for a gas car could easily total an EV, because when the battery is damaged, the cost of repair reaches the threshold for totaling the vehicle. This costs insurance companies millions of dollars annually and will only get worse. In addition, repair times are often much longer than regular ICE vehicles. One Rivian R1T owner reported that a minor fender bender resulted in $42,000 in damage, which was half the vehicle's purchase price, roughly. Who will offset the cost to insurance companies for heavy losses on EVs? Of course, everyone else who doesn't drive an EV. What else is new? EVs negatively impact everyone, even if you don't own one. What many people refuse to accept is that EVs require heavy mining to create the batteries. The government would have you believe that these are clean vehicles across the board, but the cold reality is that they are responsible for heavy mining completed by the poorest, most disadvantaged people in third world countries, and they produce more emissions to manufacture than a gas car. NPR cites that mining rare earth minerals is akin to modern-day slavery in Africa, where people are exploited to fulfill the needs of EV batteries. The task to mine cobalt in the Congo is completed often by women and children who use their bare hands and simple tools to rip into the earth to achieve this task in mines that are owned largely by Chinese companies in many instances. Believe it or not, roads and bridges were not designed to withstand the weight of EVs during a regular lifespan. While a highway is designed to withhold the weight of an 80,000-pound fully loaded 18-wheeler, it was not designed for every single vehicle to weigh over 7,000 pounds. When I say design, I mean the lifespan of the road, which is the same for bridges in most instances. America already has major road and bridge infrastructure issues, and EVs will only add to that pending disaster. More alarmingly, parking garages could collapse due to the increased weight, and crash barriers can easily be overcome by heavy EV pickup trucks. Bridges and roads cost millions to billions of dollars and months or years to replace. The one that you see here is one in my hometown that cost the state of Pennsylvania over $2 million and took about a year to replace. While EVs had nothing to do with that bridge needing to be replaced, it's just an example of how much that will cause problems in the future. This is among the many hidden costs of EVs that is not commonly discussed when addressing the entire scope of EV benefits. Who will fund this issue? Well, the taxpayer, of course, and it will inconvenience you. Have you ever stopped and thought about where all the energy for charging EVs actually comes from? Well, the answer may surprise you. And unfortunately, the cold hard fact is that the majority of the U.S. energy production comes from burning fossil fuels such as coal and natural gas. In fact, over 60% of energy production for electricity comes from burning fossil fuels such as coal, and that comes straight from the U.S. Department of Energy. I am not making that up. 15 states still use coal as the primary means to generate electricity, and another 18 primarily use natural gas, and that includes California. The majority of the U.S. depends on burning fossil fuels to generate electricity outside of the Northwest, which benefits from hydropower, and some parts of the Midwest who benefit from wind power. Without burning fossil fuels, the U.S. could not meet the energy demands of EV vehicles or electrical household appliances right now. Here's a simple fact that most people don't want to recognize. The infrastructure for EVs does not exist in America right now. There is only one EV charger for every 1,848 US residents. While of course this number is going to get better every single year, it doesn't address the fact that the US simply doesn't generate enough power to charge all these cars. It is estimated that the entire US fleet were transitioned today to Tesla cars. The immediate electrical demand would increase by over 50% nationwide. When adding in other things like green household appliances, that energy demand would more than double. Does that sound reasonable to you? Well, if it does, consider this. California alone would be required to spend over $50 billion by 2035 in just distribution upgrades to meet only the increased EV demands. And one of the least understood drawbacks of EVs is the terrible cost they have to the environment to manufacture. Volvo has directly stated that they produce more than 70% more emissions during the manufacturing process to build an EV. People will cite that this is paid back over the lifetime use of the EV, But for all the reasons I am presenting to you today, it is simple to see that those assumptions are not going to be correct in many instances, especially for heavier truck EVs and those who live in areas where electricity is mostly generated by coal. In addition, the amount of parts and materials needed to manufacture an EV is much greater. This results in higher costs to build, slowdowns for production, and erodes the profits of major companies like Ford, which posted a $1.3 billion loss on EVs in Q1 of 2024. This equated to a net loss of $132,000 per EV sold. What a business model that is, selling Ford trucks for a loss of $132,000 per truck. In addition, people will not recognize that throughout the entire manufacturing process of EVs, oil is used. From transportation to heavy mining to shipping them across the world, shipping them within the United States and getting them to their final destination, oil and diesel is required for EVs. There is no way around it. If you made it all the way to the end of this episode, you may be thinking that I hate the climate, I hate the world, and I think everyone's going to drive gasoline-powered cars for the rest of eternity. Well, that couldn't be farther from the truth. The facts are, our climate is being killed by what we're doing right here on planet Earth right now. In addition, the amount of materials we have to make gasoline is finite. It will run out at some point. So what are we going to do? Well, these facts simply just show that right now, battery-powered cars are not the answer. The cold hard truth is that hybrid technology is a much better technology for what we have right now in America. Going into the future, I also believe that a different technology besides electric vehicles that are powered with a battery will be the better technology. Thank you for watching this episode of Dentside Deep. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.